Day in the life of Chuck
Yeah,
Negron.
yeah.
Let's put the mic on. We all set? Is that coming through? Are we coming through for visual radio? He's one of the most familiar voices from late 1960s through the 1970s radio. The voice of Easy to Be Hard, One is the Loneliest Number, Joy to the World, The Show Must Go On, from Three Dog Night. Chuck Negron, welcome to Visual Radio. Thank you for appearing with us.
My pleasure to be here.
Well, tell us a little bit about what brings you out to Manchester, New Hampshire, Chuck.
I'm doing a concert here this evening. Hopefully it's raining, so we'll see if we're going to do it. But that's what we're here for, to do Riverfest, and we're looking forward to it. And hopefully the rain will let up so we can go on. And I was here also to do some interviews to publicize my book, Three Dog Nightmare, and my new CD, The Long Road Back. So, kind of doing a lot of things at once.
Mm-hmm. Well, tell us a little bit about your most recent release there, The Long Road Back, if you could.
Basically, it's the soundtrack to the book, Three Dog Nightmare, and a lot of the music pertains. I mean, you don't have to buy the book to enjoy the CD, but it has a lot to do with the content of the book, and we're real excited about it. Getting ready to release a single. That's all right. That's all right, Gary. Sorry. We're getting ready to release a single, and we'll see what happens.
Well, it's a long way from Joy to the World to Three Dog Nightmare. Can you tell us a little bit about what you cover in your book, then?
Well, the book is basically the story of a young man who got involved in the record business very young, at 15, and who was an athlete and went from a lifestyle of very, very clean living, sports and music, real dedicated and focused, to coming into his own in the 60s when the message was about drugs. And, I got involved and didn't get to walk away. So it's a story. It's a story about the American dream gone wrong, and the power of surrendering to these things and starting over, and that miracles do happen. And my life is, I got another chance, and I have a whole new life. So the book is about redemption. It's about a lot of things. I've heard some people say, they think it's a tell-all book. It's not at all. I mean, it explains about what happened to me and some of the other guys, but basically, it's a story of the downfall of a very young man and his redemption later in his life, and the rebirth of a human being.
But now, were there some great and happy moments in the career that sort of got messed up by these other intrusions from the culture?
Well, I'm not going to blame it on the culture. It's what introduced me, of course, to it. But there were wonderful times. Three Dog Night was a wonderful experience in my life. The body of work that we did hasn't been matched by many. There aren't many artists that have the body of work that we have, so I'm very, very proud of it, or the sales, or the success in commercial terms. So I'm very, very proud of it. I loved being a part of the band. It was fun for a very long time. I was a young man, so the drugs really didn't take me under that quickly. And being an athlete the whole first part of my life, I was kind of in shape to get wrecked. So I recovered very quickly, like a fighter who takes a punch. You're in a good shape, you come back. So it took me, in the 80s is when I really started falling apart. Although there were times when the band was together where I did have some troubles. But actually drugs, not many people know, really devastated Three Dog Night. Joe Shermy was our first casualty. We replaced him in 72, 71, 72.
In that range, yeah.
And he was an intricate part of the band. Rhythmically, him and Floyd Sneed were the soul of the band. This really unbelievable, very funky rhythm. So losing him was it was a bad thing. I mean,
Your bass player.
Our bass player. I mean, it left Floyd kind of, up in the air because his style was so unique and they were such a team. So it was devastating, but we could no longer continue with Joe. And then later we had to replace Danny Hutton, one of the singers, because he couldn't function anymore. And then by the end, only two of us were left, Corey and myself. And we had Rufus was playing the band; they were playing for us, and it was we just decided we couldn't get along. There was no sense in continuing. So at the very end, the two of us were left. And then in the '80s, when we got back, I was totally unprepared to do anything.
When you did the EP, It's a Jungle?
Yeah, yeah. I was hoping we would have done more. We actually had a deal with RCA that we could have taken, and for whatever reason, I think Danny and Corey were more comfortable going with a smaller label. It's interesting when you're working with someone who's not functioning well, who at that point it was me. You try to buffer yourself from having too much dependence on this person. And since I came with so many of the hits, the record companies were looking to me to make them, and they didn't want that to happen at all. So they went to a smaller label, really, where they had some control, and I had very little to do with the record. But also the label didn't have any power to sell the damn thing, so
The widest distribution.
so,
Huh?
yeah, to get it anywhere. So it really was a futile project, and nothing really happened with it. Although there are some good tunes on it.
Well, in some ways, you've come full circle because you started as a solo act, did you not, out of New York?
Well, actually, I didn't start as a solo act. I started as a duet with my friend Bobby Batari. The first record I made was in '58 with him, and then shortly after that, I was in a band called the Rondells, and we made several records in New York.
Really? Were those like a doo-wop
Doo-wop.
style?
Oh yeah, we got play, and we did all right, and we played all over New York, and that's when I was still in my teens. And then when I went to college, it was the first time I became a solo act. In my first year, in my freshman year, I made a record. And then in my sophomore year, I made a record. And then my junior year, Columbia signed me. And I made several records for them.
With the big label?
With the big label, yes.
Wow. And did any of those almost break, or were they like regional type of
They were
successes?
regional things. I actually had big hits in Santa Maria and Central California, Santa Barbara. They went very well, but very not far out of that area, So is she worried about the light? Oh, anyway.
Just got it rolling, I think.
Oh, okay. So it was a very regional thing. The producer I had was so enamored by my voice that he wanted me, and they gave him to him because he was so passionate, but it really didn't have any history in pop. He was producing Igor Stravinsky and Andre Previn, Percy Faith, which great artists, but nothing to do with pop. And I remember hooking up with Jack Nietzsche and Jackie DeShannon. And they were writing stuff and doing stuff. And I said, this is the team I want to use. And they said, what are you talking about? They do the whole different thing. And I went, that's what I do. And he said, oh, no, we're gonna make you the new Johnny Mathis. Because I had that ability to sing that way. But it was, only, so I knew I was in trouble because he didn't see the change in music coming. There was a whole nother, Columbia was, although they had just signed the Byrds, the interesting thing was they had just signed the Byrds in '65, and that was Terry Melcher, who was Doris Day's son, and that was one of the young kids, and he was doing surf music with Bruce Johnson, who
That's right.
ended
Bruce
up
and Terry.
who ended up writing I Wrote the Songs and being in the Beach Boys for 30 years, but the mainstream of Columbia was way behind,
Andy Williams was still what Columbia was all
yes,
about.
yes, exactly. And that's what they wanted to make me. And I said, you don't understand. This thing's over. And they, you don't know what you're talking about. So anyway, I was a part of that regime. And when the thing did change, it was hard for me to go to the new guy and say, you don't understand. I didn't like what they were doing. So I looked like a turncoat or something. So I knew I had to leave.
Mm-hmm.
So I left. I had no place to go, but I knew if I stayed there, I was going to be further stigmatized. So I left.
And is that when you teamed up with Danny and Corey, and was it first called Redwood? Is that what you got
Yeah,
into
well,
first?
actually, we didn't call ourselves Redwood. Brian Wilson called us Redwood. Danny had made friends with Brian and had been to some of Brian's great sessions, recording Pet Sounds, and Danny had learned a lot just observing Brian. So when we got together, Corey, Danny, and I, Brian wanted to do the project. They just were starting Brother Records. You know, can you imagine if the rest of the Beach Boys had the insight that Brian did? They would have had the Three Dog Night catalog on their label, Brother Records. They would have taken over because they had Beach Boys, them, and later the management's merged with Chicago, and it would have been unbelievable. But anyway, the Mike Love and Carl and Al were very insecure about Brian sharing his abilities with anyone, so they really stopped the project. And one of the songs we were working on at the time was Darlin'.
Yeah.
That the Beach Boys did.
Later on.
Yeah.
Or after you guys
Yeah,
did, right?
yeah, after we did it. And if you listen to that vocal, you'll see Carl has a whole nother sound than he ever had before. You know, it's all kind of East Coast vibe. But anyway, we learned a lot in that experience. Brian was wonderful to work with. He called us Redwood.
Oh, okay.
Right on, Redwood.
So
I go, ooh, he's weird. Straight ahead, Redwood.
A genius, though, right?
Oh, yeah.
Was the instrumentation that they used in Darlin' the same? Did they just wipe your vocals off and put them on? Or did you really
Basically, yes, that's what they did. On Time to Get Along was one song which we completed. They just totally wiped the vocals off. Darlin', we never got to complete. So, they finished the song.
Yeah.
And actually, I love their version. They did a great version. But the shame was, Brian desperately needed to define himself away from the family. His father was very controlling, and he needed to get away. Pet Sounds was his first venture away from the band, and then at the end, he gave in and let them be a part of it. It was going to be a solo album. And so it's a shame that he didn't get to do that, because I think from that point on, he was just stifled, and, but it was a wonderful experience.
Were you there during the legendary Smile sessions, or was that prior to your involvement?
No, it was actually after. We actually worked with Van Dyke Parks.
Oh.
Van Dyke Parks was one of the first producers we had after Brian, who did some work with us when we were on Dunhill. And I think we were recording Nobody and Don't Make Promises. And then one day the project was stopped. I never knew why, And to this day, when I was writing my book, I said, you know what? I need to know this. Why didn't you finish the project? He says, you know what? No one ever called me again. They canceled the date and no one gave me an explanation or anything. So I said, wow, that's weird, because I never knew. So he didn't either.
Well, you also did a demo for White Whale Records, didn't you? If You Knew.
Yeah, If You Knew. I was never happy doing the song. I thought it wouldn't be a wise move to do a song that the Young Rascals had done, for a demo. But at any rate, we did, and White Whale really didn't see any. Is there a problem? You want to straighten something out?
Keep going.
She seems to want to. So.
Okay, I'm sorry. Oh, okay.
Okay,
well, you
yeah.
want to get Chuck's voice. My voice isn't very important.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay. So White Whale wasn't all that interested in If You Knew. So we decided to go in and do another record, and Danny had the Seal of Black song that Lennon and McCartney wrote. It was a waltz. It's For You. And we listened to it, and I said, the chords are great, but it's a corny song. I mean, it's a waltz. So we got into this whole process, and we just revamped this song to the a cappella, and really, we might as well have written a new song, because in the end, the part that we did like, the chords, we didn't use. It's an a cappella song. But anyway, so that really got us started. White Whale loved that. And at that point, when White was interested, I brought them to the management that I had, who was kind of on a high. They had the Turtles and Steppenwolf, who just were breaking. So when I brought Danny and Corey to my management, the people who managed me, we got some funding, and we didn't have to go to White Whale, because it really was a small label. They did have the Turtles, but
that was pretty much it.
That is pretty much it. And even like today, independence, it's a tough. If you don't have a lot of money, it's a tough way to go. So we were fortunate that we were able to look around a little more.
To land it with Dunhill,
Well,
which
actually,
was
a lot of things happened. The word got out on us. We started doing shows, and one day, Ahmet Erdogan and Robert Stigwood showed up at a rehearsal at Danny's house.
that's pretty heavy.
And let me tell you, they were, you got to come with us, and Stigwood will do the management. And they really wanted us. And
they were going to be a team. One would manage you, another would put you on the label. Wow.
Yeah. So it was, they were doing things together. They were doing things together. So they had the whole thing packaged. And I don't know about Dan and Corey. All I know is, for me, it was overwhelming. I went, how do you even get to an equal ground with these two guys? You know what I mean? How do you get any control of your life with these two powerful men? Not only working together, they're friends, whatever it was. So anyway, we passed on them.
You turned down Stigwood and Armin.
Yeah, we did. We passed. We wanted to be in control of our fate, and we knew, guys, most of the people that made records for these people had A&R guys. They were scrutinized. Everyone told them what to do. We never had an A&R guy on ABC Dunhill. We were never told what tunes to do. We brought the materials. We produced it with Richie Pottle, although we didn't get credit. It was the only way the three of us could work together with someone else, by letting someone else get the credit. Because we would have killed each other. But so it worked perfectly. But we made our own records. We arranged them with our own band, and it worked. We knew with a bigger label we would not have that luxury. So, so we got it, and I'm happy where we ended up with. Although Stigwood and Ahmet Erdogan are legends, and
they
probably would have done a wonderful job with us as well.
Well, one of the big challenges for the three of you must have been in choosing songs for the LPs.
Yeah, it was an interesting process because Danny wrote, and Corey liked to write, and he was one of the second songs that we did. He was there's a drum going off somewhere.
The concert's starting late.
Yeah, really. Sorry. The second song we were learning was a song that Corey wrote.
Oh.
And we were working on it, and we're doing every trick in the book to make this song work. And I started getting very nervous because these were not good enough. His song was not good enough. And Danny had some songs, Dreaming Isn't Good For You, from an old record, and he had some new songs that I just had no faith in. But, you're part of a team, and you don't say that to someone. So what I did from my years of Columbia and as being a young man working in Tin Pan Alley and being a part of the Brill building scene, watching Lieber and Stoller and Goffin and King.
Really?
Mann. Oh, yeah, that's...
When you were in New York City.
When I was in New York as a kid.
Rubbing elbows with all of those.
No, what I did was I liked the song. I went, oh, wow, that new Drifter song is unbelievable. The strings, who did that? And, and I found out they weren't groups, they were writers. That they were basically producing their records. And same thing with even Burt Bacharach. He produced for Chuck Jackson. I mean, some great stuff back then. So I fell in love with writers, and I knew you're as good as your song. I might be a great singer, but you can have a mediocre singer with a great song, and he's going to be in better shape than I am. So I went right to Chuck Kay, who was Warner Chappell. And it wasn't Warner Chappell. I think it was a part of A&M. And I said, hey, I need some material. And he said, well, look, they got this guy that he's got an album coming out, a bunch of stuff on a movie, but he's a great writer and they're not using any of his stuff. So he plays me Harry Nilsson's album.
Oh, yeah.
And I go, they're not using this stuff? And I said, what about one? Because I want that. And he said, no, they're going to put it on the album, but no, they're, everybody's talking. And actually, in Harry's whole career, I think maybe he had only one hit that he wrote. The rest... That's
right. Without You is written by the Badfinger,
other people's songs. And this is a great writer. Mm-hmm. So, that happens. The record companies miss what you do. I mean, another successful album of Harry's was Harry Nilsson sings Randy Newman, or Harry Nilsson sings the standards. And this guy's a great writer. So he was frustrated. So I got one from him, and then Van Dyke Parks had turned us on to Randy Newman, whose first album came out before our first album did. And we liked some stuff, so we got that. And then Randy started sending us stuff. And then I got a song from Elton John.
And Lady
Samantha. And then Danny said, oh, I love that. I want to do it. And I remember the producer said, well, I brought it for Chuck. And Danny, this is already only the second album. Danny, I'll never forget this. He said he gets all the good songs, and the producer said he brings all the songs. So Danny says, this is the funniest line. I'll never forget this. Well, I want to sing it too. So the producer goes, look, we'll have Corey, Chuck, and you all sing it, and whoever sings it best will sing it. And Danny said, that's not fair. So he had already conceded after the first album.
I guess you could have taken him on the basketball courts too.
Oh, yeah, well, he wasn't a basketball player. He was actually, I think, a tennis player though. So yeah, there was a lot of great writers, and as a singer, you know, I had no need at that time in my life, for whatever reason, to express myself. I mean, I found enough words in songs that I could make them my own, turn them around, and I looked at myself as a singer and an entertainer. And at that point, that was a big enough challenge. Later, you know, as I moved on, I had a need to write, and my new album is almost all songs that I've written. But at that point, I just wanted to be successful.
Did the three of you battle it out often over who would sing or what songs you'd choose, or usually not?
Well, there was some. Like that happened with Lady Samantha, but no, most of the songs I did, I brought in myself. So they weren't, you know, although I brought Eli in and I decided, because Corey needed another song for that album, I said, why don't you sing some of the lead, we'll break it up, but you could sing, you know, the central part of it. And Old Fashioned Love Song was Paul Williams, who's a friend of mine. When Danny heard it, he said, could I try it too? And I was feeling generous, so I said yes. But when I sang the first verse, the producer said, Danny, he's got to sing it. I mean, you know, what are you going to do, follow that first verse? And it really wasn't natural for me, so I ended up singing. So once in a while there was a little tension, but when that happened, we usually broke up the song that we each sang a verse.
Yeah.
Like celebrate, everyone wanted to sing, so we broke it up, you know. And so, but, you know, if you brought the song, you did it, you know. Unfortunately, Danny didn't have the greatest ears, so he didn't bring many songs. So we had to find him stuff, because out of, I guess, all the singles we had, Danny had, what, Liar and Black and White.
Was
you know,
and
other than that, all the other album cuts really...
You and Corey?
Well, the ones he did were kind of album cuts.
They weren't singles.
They weren't singles. But anyway, you know, he had that thick bottom voice, which was fantastic in the harmony. And, you know, the band worked because I had an ear for songs. Corey could interpret a lot of them, you know, and it all worked. It all worked.
Did you have a favorite song among those? I mean, among your big hits, or even among the lesser-known material that you just really love?
Well, you know what? There's so many that I love. Although Danny had one big hit, the first one he did, Liar, I love. I think I love the sound of it. Yeah, I really like the job he did, and I think the production on that is great. It really has an identity, and that's a hard thing to do when a band already has its own, to come up with a nice little nick. So I like that. I like that record. But you know, I like one because those first million sell it means a lot to me, because I had so much faith in the song. You know, so there's different favorites for different reasons.
Different times of life, maybe.
Yeah, sure. That mean that mean different things to me.
How about in terms of albums? We brought a couple along here. This is the Harmony album, which was the Old-Fashioned Love Song.
Yeah. This is a good album.
Never Been to Spain.
Yeah, it had two great songs. Never Been to Spain, an Old-Fashioned Love Song, and Danny did a good song on this too. Oh, maybe it wasn't this song. No, it was Murder My Heart for Judge.
That was the old Moby Grape song, isn't it?
Yeah. That's he did a good job. And I had fun with that, the Marvin Gaye thing. But yeah, I like this album. That was a good album.
Very good album. Yeah. And this was the one prior to it. Of course, naturally, the song list isn't on there, but
Joy to the World.
The legendary.
That one really.
Which was the huge.
Yeah, this was taken in Hawaii.
And is that is the suitcase wedged in there, or did someone throw it and get a quick shot?
No. What it is it's wedged in there, and it's like 2001, and. And the thing was, no one thought that is our address. That is the right address. So we got about 100,000 letters, and the office was very unhappy.
Oh, it was in fact. So it wasn't like a phony 1-800 number.
No. In case it got lost, that was our business address. So they got flooded.
They had bags of stuff.
Mail. It was
and you were the blame.
Yeah. Matter of fact, I just take boxes of mail for myself out of there. And I remember it was terrible, but I had a closet full of mail that I couldn't even get to because, I mean, I did over years, but it took me years to get through it.
Do you think in the last couple of albums the material you were able to choose sort of declined, or was it just the group started getting disunited?
Well, what it was, in my opinion, was we were out of gas. The commitment of 2 albums a year and touring 210 days and more a year was too much of a burden artistically. A lot of these songs, what made them great was not only the foundation of the song was there, but we took them, we changed them, we nurtured them, we took the time to make them what they needed to be. And by the last several albums, we my desire to find the right song was gone. It was, we didn't do the work. We weren't doing the work, and Dan and Corey never did that. Went out and got all the songs. So so it suffered. It suffered, and plus we were all tired. And at that point, everyone wasn't functioning, so well. So it was hard. It was hard, and the band suffered because no one had the insight to say, what you guys have just put out 8 albums in 4 years.
Maybe you should take a little
Maybe
break,
you should take some time off.
So you guys were on the road all the time.
Oh, constant. 210 days a year was the average, and we needed a break.
You were like the biggest live band in
Yeah,
America
well,
at
the
time.
band. Yeah, well, we sold so many live tickets because it wasn't an exciting act. The band was better on stage than in the studio, because actually the voices were so big that some of the microphones really couldn't record us as well as they can now because we overloaded them. So it was so much limiting going on. But anyway, it's success ruined the band. No one having the faith, I'm talking about management, to say, what, let's have a master plan for the next 5 years. Let's take off for a year. You guys regroup for 6 months. Let's start writing. Let's start looking for material. Whatever one prudent person might do to guide a career was never done. It was the buck, and
just keep
it ended up being very short-sighted.
Then when you returned, your first solo record was called Sweetly Enough, Am I Still in Your Heart?
Yeah, and that was, the Pretend.
Yeah.
That was a wonderful project. It was a really great growing process to be back in the studio like a child, open-mindedness I'd never had, a clarity I'd never had. And I learned so much in that one album. It was wonderful working with Bill Cooper and Richie Podler again. They did the majority of Three Dog Night stuff. That was a wonderful experience. And it was great. And then the next album, the Christmas album, Joy to the World, was even better. My voice was really coming on. And, we had the budget to do full orchestra and choruses. We did the children's choir, Salt Lake City Children's Choir, which is the choir that grows up to be the Mormon Tabernacle. So we had some great voices on that.
Was that album something of a throwback to your Columbia days?
Yeah, it was in the sense where it was a wonderfully produced classic album. I think it's an album that will stand the test of time because of the great arrangements, and yes, it was close to something that they would love to have.
Okay.
Yeah, and that was a project specially for Best Buy, which they were so cool on, so that they sold it primarily. Now, this year it's going to be reissued with a new cover, a lenticular cover. Kodak is putting it out, and it will hopefully have a new life.
Well, Chuck Negron, the book is called Three Dog Nightmare. But as we've heard, there were many exciting and happy times as well, and we're glad of that. And the CD is called Long Road Back.
The Long Road Back, yeah.
And we're glad to see that Chuck Negron is back.
Oh, yeah. Life is good.
Still doing those sweet sounds for us.
Thank you.
Thank you for appearing on Visual Radio. We appreciate it, Chuck.
Very cool.
Thank you. Very good. We
Okay.
appreciate the information.
Welcome back to Visual Radio. We're going to talk about technical things now.
Okay.
You have a new album out.
Yes.
When did you record it?
I recorded it about 5 months ago. It was a project that went very, very quickly. We had a deadline where Hippo wanted to put it out, and we said, okay, we can do it, and we went in, and it's all Pro Tools, no tape. So some with full orchestras. Went to Nashville and recorded the Nashville String Machine, and had some unbelievable musicians on this project.
Really? Like who?
Well, let me see. Tyson from Queen's band. She's an unbelievable guitar player. You know, and I'm so bad with some of these names, but the guys that are doing this stuff, I wish I knew their names. You know, hey.
That's cool.
Thanks. Hey.
Did you produce it?
I produced it with Sam Ward, Sam Ward is a wonderful producer. He's the guy that did Cher's first dance record, 2 years ago, the first thing that brought her back. And he just finished the project with Ricky Martin, and he works with everybody, Babyface, and he's quite a talent. So we produced it together, all on Pro Tools, and it was a lot of fun.
Where'd you get the material?
I wrote most of it. It's has a lot to do with the lifestyle of a drug addict, and a star, and then moving on to better things. It's a kind of an audio commentary of a part of my life. So it's something I'm really excited about. So I wrote most of the songs, and a couple of them I redid Easy to Be Hard with a full orchestra, acoustic guitar and a full orchestra, which was lots of fun. And then we did a fun dance version of Joy to the World, a club version.
Oh, that sounds great.
Yeah.
Now, sometimes I write for Replication News, and we talk about the real technical stuff. You did it all on Pro Tools, which is pretty amazing.
Well, yeah, it's a wonderful way to work if you have the equipment, if you have the software, if you have the ability to back up. Like we were working with about 200 tracks, and we had constant, backup, and unbelievable the equipment, that we had. I wish I knew more about it, but it was a wonderful, wonderful process. For an artist, a very great way to work because it's very quick. Of course, when there's downtime, but when it's going, you can go from idea to idea, and it was really, really great.
You went to multiple studios?
Well, we did the tracks in a couple of different studios in Los Angeles, a track here, a track there, because we were going to bring them to the Pro Tools, anyway. So we weren't as, we used the great studios, but we knew with our technology we could make it sound whatever we wanted. We just wanted to get it on tape good. And then with all the technology with the Pro Tools, we moved it around or did whatever we wanted to. But yeah, we didn't in the studio that had all the equipment. We didn't have the room to record orchestras or entire bands. Although we did do rhythm sections in there.
And can people buy this on the web? How do you sell it?
It's in the stores. It's in the stores now, or they can, go to my webpage, which is www.negron.com, or you can go to Amazon.com, and you can get the book and the CD. So there are several ways that you can get it.
Have you done book signings?
Yeah, I just finished a tour with Borders, which took me across the country, and I'm doing more. Really tedious book tours. I had no idea they were much harder than this kind of touring. And the book is doing great. It's very close to being on the bestseller list. This book is unbelievable. Matter of fact, I just sold it. Well, I was talking to my friends earlier. I just sold it yesterday. And they're in the works, the screenplay. There's going to be a movie, and this is very exciting. So so I've got a movie in the works. Very cool.
Wow, Chuck, who's the publisher?
Of the book, Renaissance Publishing, and they've been fun to work with. And Universal Hippo is where the CD is. MCA Universal.
I only have a couple more questions because I know you have to go on stage soon at Riverfest.
Yeah, I got to shave. I haven't shaved.
Richard Portillo was basically the main producer for Three Dog Night?
Yeah, Richie Parler was actually our second producer. The first producer was Gabriel Meckler, who produced Steppenwolf and did Born to Be Wild and Suki Suki and some great songs. And Richie was the engineer. And by us, he did our first two albums. By our third album, we felt that we could do it. You know what I mean? And he was busy, he had commitments too. So we decided that we'd use Richie and Bill, and it just became, Richie ended up getting to produce some credit. We all worked as a team because it just was the only way the band could have done it. If we got producing credit, we would have been nuts, taking over and everything. Not to say that Richie didn't do a great job, because he did. But the band, you know, we made our own records.
Well, Gabriel Meckler produced one of my favorite albums of all time, Cosmic Blues by Janis Joplin.
Oh, yeah.
How did you meet him?
Well, actually, ABC Dunhill decided after Brian, well, not Brian wasn't with ABC, but Van Dyke Parks, and then one other guy, Steve Berry, who did
Grassroots?
Yeah, and he wrote Eve of Destruction.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, when
Ian Sloan and Steve Barrett.
yeah, he just wasn't our cup of tea. I mean, great guy, but
Yeah.
you know, they said this is the guy for you, and you know, it worked out. I don't know. In my book, there's some stories about Janis,
Gabriel? Oh, really?
Janis Joplin. And we actually made friends when she was doing that project, because you know, we always, you know, be drunk or loaded, and we were very confrontational with one another. And then I came over to Gabrielle's house one day, and there she was with her hair up, washing dishes, you know, in the kitchen. And I just saw this innocence and this vulnerability that had never been there. They cleaned her up to do the album. So yeah, but you know what? I never knew the album. What was the album cover?
I got
The
them
title?
old Cosmic Blues Again, Mama.
Okay, that's what it was. Did it do well? Because I don't remember that one.
It actually, I think it went to number 3. It's just been re-released on Epic Legacy.
Oh, great.
They just sent it to me with additional tracks, but here's the great thing, Chuck. Cosmic Blues Band live, they never released a full album, and there's great live tracks.
Oh, really?
She's doing a song called Bo Diddley, the Bo Diddley
Yeah,
tune.
yeah.
It's amazing. And
Yeah,
it's
I
just-
worked with her when she was in that band. We did a show together. I think
You really did?
the Music Scene. Remember the Music Scene? The Music Scene was actually a Billboard show that went off the Billboard charts. And every week they had the #1 act in the country plus the top 10. So we were on a lot. And the thing that brought it down was Sugar Sugar.
Wow.
Because there was no one did it. The Archies. So
Wasn't it Andy Kim?
no, it wasn't Andy Kim. It was someone else. But the cartoon was doing it. So
Right.
so you know, their big drawing card for like what 6 weeks. That thing was
Right.
#1 was a cartoon, and you know, they lost their audience. So it was a shame. But yeah, she had that band. We did a couple of shows with her on that. She was on that show.
A TV show.
Yeah, it was a great TV show called The Music Scene. It was great. Actually, they shot videos and live stuff too. It was a lot of fun.
Oh, VH1 should put that
Yeah,
reissue.
you know what? They were, and then there's some kind of legal hassles. But it's a great show. Like our segment on Easy to Be Hard, they actually have a demolition derby, and they destroy real cars in the studio. And then this big smoke comes out, and the cars are all stacked on top of one another, and we sing Easy to Be Hard in them. So they had some production, and Lily Tomlin was on the show. She was one of the comedians, and what's his name? David. Oh God, the guy that used to do that psychiatry bit, and you go out. You know, he goes. What?
David
Steinberg,
Steinberg?
yeah.
Oh,
he
cool.
he was the MC and wrote for it, and they
Wow.
had some great comedians. I just ran into him in a clothing store, and I went, "Hey!" And he went, "Oh God, yeah, I remember that bit." Then he remembered me from doing a show.
Oh, I can't wait to see that. One final question. We do something called the demo that got the deal. You didn't have an A&R man at ABC Dunhill. What was the demo that got the deal for Three Dog Night?
We didn't do a demo. What it was we had such a buzz around the town that we rented the Troubadour for an afternoon, and we invited every label, and we went and did an hour show. And after that show, we got an offer from everyone in town. And since our management was with ABC Dunhill, well, actually it was Dunhill then, because of Steppenwolf and Grassroots, they managed both. We got a great deal. Plus, our management knew how to work with them, so it worked. So that's how we went there. So we would have went to another label.
And the Gabriel Meckler connection, of course.
Yeah, of course. So it was all natural. And then Gabriel said, "Look, if I produce you, we work in one studio only," and that's how we met Richie and Bill, because Richie and Bill was the studio.
Right.
Yeah.
Wow, that is so cool, Chuck.
Yeah.
You know, I really appreciate your time on Visual Radio.
Yeah. Sorry I look this way. I'm really very attractive.
We look forward to seeing you tonight live.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, man. And thanks to Chris, Lenny, and Joe, our crew. Visual Radio.
All right, man. I appreciate your time. Oh God, the guy that used to do that psychiatry bit, and you go out. You know, he goes. What?
David
Steinberg,
Steinberg?
yeah.
Oh,
he
cool.
he was